There are moments in life that define us, precise instants when everything we thought we knew crumbles like a house of cards. For Serena Mitchell, that moment came exactly 2 hours before what should have been the happiest day of her life. With her wedding dress carefully laid out on the bed, she stared in astonishment at her phone screen, reading over and over again the message that had just shattered her world. "I can't do it. I'm sorry. Don't look for me." 18 words, 6 years of relationship, a betrayal that would change the course of her existence forever. The clock ticked relentlessly as Serena stood stock still, as if time had stopped just for her, freezing her in that precise moment of utter devastation. Notifications kept pouring into her phone, but she barely registered them, mired in a state of disbelief that numbed every fiber of her being. It was only when a banking alert lit up her screen that something stirred inside her. With trembling fingers, she opened her bank app, and reality hit her with brutal force. The joint accounts she'd set up with Quinn Harrington for wedding expenses were completely empty, and the $200,000 her grandparents had left her as an inheritance had been transferred to an unknown account just 30 minutes ago. The bedroom door swung open. Her younger sister, Haley, walked in, pale-faced, her phone clutched in her hand like a lifeline. "Serena," her voice broke, unable to continue. "He ran off with the money," Serena finished in a flat, emotionless voice. "I've already seen it." "It's not just that." Haley hesitated, then turned her phone screen toward her sister. The image showed Quinn at the airport, arm in arm with Vanessa Reeves, supposedly Serena's best friend and chief bridesmaid. The double betrayal was so physical that Serena doubled over, as if she'd been punched in the stomach. The man she loved and the friend she considered a sister, united not only in their betrayal but in their escape. "What do we do now?" Haley asked, tears streaming down her face. "The guests will start arriving in an hour." Serena slowly stood up, a strange icy calm taking over her, replacing the initial pain with something darker and more determined. "You go to church. Tell the truth. Quinn ran off with Vanessa and the family money. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't downplay it. The harsh truth. And you? I won't be here when everyone gets back." That same night, Serena packed everything she could into her car and left Newbrook, the small town where she'd grown up, which was now surely filled with murmurs and pitying glances. She drove aimlessly, her wedding dress thrown into a dumpster on the side of the road, tears drying on her face as the miles ticked by beneath the wheels of her vehicle. In the passenger seat, he had only a folder containing his diplomas and his worn copy of Great Expectations, an irony that didn't go unnoticed in the chaos of his shattered mind. The small Boston apartment was completely devoid of personality. White walls, functional furniture, no photos or decorations. After 3 months of living there, Serena still hadn't completely unpacked her suitcase. Why bother? The place was simply a roof over her head while she tried to piece together the fragments of her shattered life. Her phone rang. Her mother again. The 5th call that week. Serena sent it to voicemail like all the others. She wasn't prepared to hear updates about Newbrook, about how people were talking, about the rumors that Quinn and Vanessa were living luxuriously in some tropical paradise with the money they'd stolen. The laptop screen glowed in the darkness. Serena looked at the email she'd just received. An enrollment confirmation at Harvard. Law school for the fall semester. That hadn't been her original plan. Before, she'd been content as a literature teacher at the local school, her half-written novel tucked away in a drawer. Now, something different burned inside her. A fierce desire for justice that literature couldn't satisfy. Next to the laptop was the local Newbrook newspaper that his sister had sent him, despite his protests. The small headline in the bottom corner caught his eye. Fugitive ex-boyfriend's business investigated for fraud. Quinn Harrington possibly involved in Ponzi scheme. A humorless smile curved his lips. So it wasn't just her. There were others, taking a sip of the cheap wine. Her dinner for that evening. Serena finally unpacked a suitcase. Not the one containing clothes or personal items, but the one that held her books, Carefully, she placed her newly acquired law volumes on the empty bookshelf, preparing for her new life. No longer the jilted girlfriend, but the future lawyer, determined to ensure people like Quinn faced justice. The years passed with the speed of pages torn from a calendar. 5 years of relentless work, first in law school, where she graduated with honors, and then as an intern at the prestigious law firm of Blackwood and Meyer, specializing in financial fraud. Time had transformed Serena. Nothing remained of that naive young woman whose world had crumbled in a day. In her place, a brilliant and meticulous lawyer had emerged, forged in the fires of betrayal and tempered with the determination to never be a victim again. Congratulations to Blackwood and Meyer's newest associate. The luxurious office on the 47th floor offered a panoramic view of Boston. Serena accepted the glass of champagne from the senior partner, smiling politely as her colleagues applauded. Her now short hair and impeccable suit projected an image of control and professionalism that perfectly concealed the emotional scars she still bore. His performance in the Holloway case was impressive, continued Richard Blackwood. Few associates would have the tenacity to find that trail of money hidden in the Caymans. Serena nodded, accepting the praise. The tenacity he praised was fueled by something no one in that room knew about. A personal obsession with schemes like the one Quinn had used to steal from her family. After the celebration, in her new office, small, but with her name on the door, Serena was unpacking her belongings when her phone vibrated with a notification. It was a news alert she'd set years ago. Quinn Harrington returns to the U.S., faces preliminary fraud charges. Her heart raced. After years of disappearance, he was finally back, within reach of justice. A knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. It was Helena Meyer, the rarely seen founding partner, a legend in the legal world for her surgical precision in complex cases. "I have a case that might interest you, Mitchell," Helena said without preamble, placing a folder on the desk. "A substantial fraud scheme, multiple victims, high profile." Serena opened the folder and froze. Quinn Harrington's photo stared back at her from the front page. "Any problems?" Helena asked, watching her closely. Serena slowly closed the folder, her mind racing. Revealing her personal connection would mean being removed from the case for conflict of interest. Remaining silent would be unethical. "I know the accused," he finally replied. "Personally?" Helena didn't seem surprised. "I know. Do you?" "No." An enigmatic smile appeared on the older woman's lips. "Why do you think I'm offering this case specifically to you? I believe in poetic justice, Mitchell, and you deserve to be the one to defeat him." The deposition room at Blackwood and Meyer was deliberately designed to be intimidating. Dark wood, uncomfortable chairs, lighting directed toward the face of the person being questioned. When Quinn Harrington walked in, Serena had to use all her willpower to maintain her professional composure. He was thinner, with worry lines that hadn't existed before, but he still had that confident smile that had once won her over. The smile disappeared instantly when he saw her. "Be Serena?" "Mr. Harrington," she replied coldly, indicating the chair. "Please sit." "What's going on? Are you the lawyer?" "I am the prosecution attorney, representing the group of victims of your fraudulent scheme." Her voice betrayed no emotion, even though her heart was pounding. "I must warn you that anything you say in this interview may be used against you." Quinn partially regained his composure, adjusting his expensive tie. "Is this some kind of revenge? For what happened between us? This is justice, Mr. Harrington. For the 67 investors you defrauded. For the 80-year-old woman who lost her life savings. For the family who lost their home." Serena opened a meticulously organized folder. "And yes, also for the Mitchell family, from whom you stole $200,000 before running off with my maid of honor." The mention of Vanessa made Quinn blanch. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly. I understand Ponzi schemes, offshore accounts, fake identities. I understand that Vanessa Reeves is no longer with you. In fact, She reported you to the authorities 3 months ago in exchange for immunity. That information clearly took him by surprise. She what? Serena allowed herself a small smile. Apparently, love isn't so strong when the money runs out and the authorities close in. Quinn ran his hands through his hair, visibly shaken. You don't understand. None of this was my idea. I was manipulated, used. Save yourself the drama, Serena interrupted. I have 5 years of meticulously documented evidence proving your guilt. No, Quinn pounded the table, desperate. You need to listen to me. Someone is behind all of this. Someone planned everything. Our relationship, the robbery, my escape. I was just a pawn, Serena laughed humorlessly. A pathetic excuse even for you. It's true. Her eyes were wild, frantic. Why do you think I'm back? I figured out who was manipulating me. The same person who made sure you were on this case. It's not a coincidence, Serena. None of this is. Before Serena could respond, the door opened. Helena Meyer walked silently, in her presence immediately dominating the room. I think that's enough for today, Helena said authoritatively. Mr. Harrington, your lawyer has arrived. Quinn looked from Helena to Serena, a strange look of recognition crossing his face. Ask her, he whispered to Serena. Ask her about Thomas Mitchell. The name of her father, who died more than a decade ago, on Quinn's lips made Serena freeze. Rain lashed against the windows of Serena's apartment as she scattered documents across the floor. Newspaper clippings, bank records, old photos. A constellation of clues she'd been trying to connect since the confrontation with Quinn 3 days earlier. Ask her about Thomas Mitchell. Quinn's words haunted her. Why would he mention her father? What connection could possibly exist between Helena Meyer, a legendary lawyer she barely knew, and her father, a college professor who had died when she was just 16? His mother's call finally came at midnight. What exactly are you looking for? Catherine Mitchell asked, sounding exhausted. Any connection between Dad and a lawyer named Helena Meyer, or the law firm of Blackwood and Meyer? A long silence followed. Your obsession with Quinn is going too far, my dear. You should dismiss that case. Move on. Mom, Serena interrupted, firmly. This isn't about Quinn anymore. It's about Dad. Please. Another silence, then a defeated sigh. There was a name in the papers I found after his death. Letters that didn't make sense to me at the time. What name? Helen. Just Helen. And something about the project and repair. Serena felt a chill run down her spine. Helen. Helena. And there was a photo, her mother continued. Your father with a woman I didn't know. On the back was written, Does the End Justify? TM and HM 1992. Shem. Helena Meyer. I need that photo, Serena said, suddenly feeling feverish. And any letters you still have. After hanging up, Serena returned to the case documents. Something didn't add up with the official narrative about Quinn. The records showed that his fraud scheme had begun precisely 3 months after they began their relationship, as if the target had always been her. Her phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. Your father's library, 3rd shelf, crime and punishment. He hid the truth in the margins. A friend. Serena stared at the message, stunned. Her father's library had been donated to the university, where he taught after his death. All the books except for Crime and Punishment, which she had kept because it was her favorite. With trembling hands, Serena went to her bookshelf and picked up the dusty volume. Opening it, she saw for the first time the small notes. In the margins, a code her father, a specialist in Russian literature, had developed. It took him hours to partially decipher. Helena betrayed. Corrupted project, money diverted. Evidence in the Swiss safe. If anything happens to me, the truth is with. The last part was blurry, illegible. The phone vibrated again. Watch out for Meyer, she's watching. Tomorrow 3 p.m., Café Dumas. Come alone. VV. Vanessa. The Café Dumas was a discreet establishment, frequented mainly by students and professors from the nearby university. Serena chose a table at the back from where she could see the entrance. At 15:07, it wasn't Vanessa who appeared, but an elderly man wearing an old-fashioned hat and carrying a cane. "Miss Mitchell," he greeted her, sitting down uninvited. "My name is Victor. Victor Meyer." "Meyer?" Serena repeated tensely. "Are you related to Helena?" "Big brother," he replied, his tired eyes studying her. "You look a lot like your father." A wave of chills ran through Serena. "You knew my father." It wasn't a question. Thomas and I were friends, colleagues, partners. Victor adjusted his glasses on what Helena called the project. Over the next hour, Victor unraveled a story that sounded like something out of a conspiracy novel. In the early 1990s, he, Helena, and Thomas had developed a revolutionary algorithm to detect financial fraud. A major banking institution offered millions for the technology. Helena wanted to sell. Thomas refused. He believed the technology should be available to regulatory agencies, not to banks that might use it to hide their own fraud. What happened? Helena forged Thomas's signature, sold the algorithm, and kept most of the money. For herself. Victor stared into his teacup. When Thomas found out and threatened to expose her, there was an accident. Serena felt her blood run cold. "Are you suggesting my father was murdered?" "He died of a heart attack." "Induced," Victor stated. Helena had connections who could make it look natural. "If that's true, why would he hire me? Why put me on Quinn's case?" Victor smiled sadly. "Guilt, maybe, or something more calculated. Helena always works on multiple levels." "And Quinn? Where does he fit into all this?" "Quinn Harrington was recruited by Helena 7 years ago, before she even met you. He's not just a con man, he's a hired gun. His mission was to get close to you, gain your trust, and then break your heart in the most destructive way possible." "Why?" Serena whispered, feeling sick. "What satisfaction would Helena get from destroying me?" Thomas left evidence of Helena's crime. Evidence he entrusted to Catherine, your mother. Helena believed that by destroying you emotionally, your family would eventually reveal where that evidence was. Victor coughed, looking suddenly fragile. "But you did something unexpected. Instead of falling apart, you rebuilt. You became a lawyer. You threatened to expose Quinn. So Helena hired me to keep an eye on him," Serena concluded, "to make sure he didn't talk too much." "Precisely. How can I believe him? All this seems madness?" "Yes." Victor slid an envelope across the table. "But documented madness. Here are copies of the algorithm's original records, with your father's forged signature, and bank records showing payments from Helena to Quinn for years." Serena opened the envelope with trembling hands. The evidence looked authentic. "What do I do now?" "You're a lawyer, Miss Mitchell." Victor stood with difficulty. "Do what lawyers do, seek justice." Before leaving, he bowed. "And as for Vanessa, she never loved Quinn. She was just another actress on Helena's stage. But she developed a conscience. It was she who left the message about your father's book." The following days passed in a frantic whirlwind as Serena worked, meticulously, building a case no one expected. Each night, she reviewed the evidence Victor had provided, comparing it with the fragments of information her mother had unearthed from the past. The picture that emerged was as twisted as it was fascinating. Helena Meyer, the prestigious lawyer, had her hands stained not only with fraud, but also with blood. The most disturbing thing for Serena was the realization that her entire adult life, her grief, her transformation, even her career, had been orchestrated by the same woman who had stolen her father's job, then his life. Quinn, Vanessa, the abandonment at the altar. It had all been part of an elaborate game designed for a revenge Serena hadn't even known existed. As she prepared the final documents, a persistent memory haunted her. The look in Helena's eyes when she pitched Quinn's case to her. It wasn't the calculating look of someone executing the final phase of a master plan. It was something more complex, almost regret. The Blackwood and Meyer conference room was packed, Federal agents, prosecutors, and journalists invited for what had been billed as a press conference on the Harrington case. Instead, they witnessed the downfall of one of the country's most respected lawyers. Helena Meyer, you are under arrest for the murder of Thomas Mitchell and conspiracy to commit fraud. Helena, surprisingly, showed no emotion. Just a weary resignation, as if she'd been waiting for this moment for decades. As the officers handcuffed her, her eyes met Serena's. You truly are your father's daughter, as ruthlessly righteous as he was. Why? Serena asked, the question that had consumed her for weeks. After everything you did, why bring me around? A sad smile appeared on Helena's face. Because you deserved the chance to discover the truth, and I deserved to finally be punished. Weeks later, in a federal prison visiting room, Serena stared at the woman who had orchestrated the destruction of her life, only to then offer her the means to rebuild it. So it was all planned, Serena said. From the beginning. Quinn, Vanessa, my hiring. You knew I'd find out eventually. Helena nodded. Don't underestimate the power of remorse, Serena. 20 years is a long time to carry the weight of a crime. And, my father, did you really love him? Helena's eyes glistened with unshed tears, more than I realized at the time. The money seemed more important then. A mistake I spent 2 decades trying to make up for, representing victims of fraud. Using the same algorithm you stole from him. Ironic, isn't it? His legacy lived on through me, even as I tried to destroy it. Serena placed a stack of documents on the table. Victor Meyer's will. He left his share of the firm to me. Helena smiled. Blackwood and Mitchell. It sounds good. Actually, I'm thinking about the Thomas Mitchell Foundation for Financial Ethics, using the money you and Victor made from the algorithm to help fraud victims. For the first time, Helena seemed genuinely surprised. Not revenge, but restorative. Justice, you really are extraordinary. No, Serena corrected, standing up. Just someone who learned that true improvement doesn't come from destroying others, but from rebuilding something better from the ruins they left behind. On the courthouse steps, after her final testimony in the Meyer case, Serena found Quinn. Waiting for her? They reduced my sentence, he said uncomfortably. In exchange for my testimony against Helena, Serena simply nodded. I know it doesn't mean anything now, but I'm sorry. At first it was just a job, but then he hesitated. Then part of me really fell in love with you. Spare us both that drama, Quinn. Serena adjusted her briefcase. We both played our parts. Now the play is over. As he walked away, Serena felt a weight lift off her shoulders. Not just the burden of betrayal, but the burden of revenge she had carried for so long. The destroyed wedding dress, the stolen money, the broken heart. Everything had transformed into something unexpected. Purpose. In his pocket, he carried the newspaper clipping his mother had found among his father's things. A quote he had underlined, "The true measure of justice is not punishment, but restoration." Serena smiled at the blue Boston sky, finally feeling free from the past that had defined her, but no longer controlled her future. That night, in the comforting solitude of her apartment, now decorated with family photographs and small mementos, she'd finally allowed herself to display. Serena contemplated the transformation she'd undergone, from the naive young woman in love to the tenacious lawyer who'd uncovered a conspiracy. But beyond the titles and professional achievements, what had truly changed was her perception of the world and herself. Quinn and Vanessa's betrayal had been just the catalyst for a much deeper journey. A journey that had led her to rediscover her father, understand the complexity of his legacy, and ultimately find a purpose that transcended personal revenge. While reviewing documents for the Thomas Mitchell Foundation, Serena reflected on how the most painful wounds sometimes generate the most significant transformations. The veil covering her reality had been brutally ripped, but through that fissure, she could now see with a clarity she'd never experienced before. Her doorbell rang, interrupting her thoughts. When she opened it, she found Haley, her sister, holding a worn cardboard box. Mom found these in the attic, Haley explained, walking in uninvited. "They're more of Dad's papers. He thought they might be useful to your foundation." Serena accepted the box with revealing hands, feeling the weight of the family history it contained. "Thank you. How is she?" "Better. Believing that justice has finally been served for Dad has given him a peace he hasn't had in years." Haley looked around the apartment, noting the changes. "You seem better too. More present." "I am," Serena admitted. "It's strange how life works. Everything that devastated me just now seems to have been necessary to get me here." As the sisters shared a glass of wine and memories that were more sweet than bitter, Serena realized she had come full circle. The abandonment that had left her feeling empty had transformed into the fullness of clear purpose. The betrayal that had isolated her now reconnected her with what truly mattered. In the days and weeks that followed, the Thomas Mitchell Foundation began to take shape. Former colleagues of her father, former students, and legal professionals joined the cause, impressed not only by the history behind the initiative, but also by Serena's vision for the future. Quinn was serving his reduced sentence, and Helena was facing justice for her crimes. But for Serena, the true victory wasn't in seeing her enemies fall, but in transforming personal tragedy into something that would help countless victims of financial fraud. The algorithm her father had created, which Helena had stolen, would now be used for its original purpose, protecting the vulnerable from financial predators, a poetic irony not lost on Serena. One day, while reviewing new cases for the foundation, she received an anonymous envelope. Inside, an old photograph she'd never seen before, her father smiling next to a young Victor Meyer, both holding what appeared to be an antique computer. On the back, a simple inscription: "Truth prevails. Always." Serena framed the photograph and placed it on her desk, a reminder that even the most deeply buried truths eventually find their way to the light, and that endings, even the most painful ones, are often simply the beginning of something more meaningful. On a chilly autumn morning, as golden leaves fell over Boston, Serena received an unexpected visitor at the Foundation's offices. Vanessa Reeves, unrecognizable with her dyed hair and lackluster expression, waited nervously in the reception area. "I don't expect your forgiveness," he said, when they were finally face to face. "I just wanted you to know that what I did has haunted me every day since." Serena studied her silently, searching inside for any trace of the hatred she'd once felt. Surprisingly, she found nothing but serene indifference. "Why did you do it?" he finally asked. "Helena had information about my past. She blackmailed me." Vanessa looked away. "But that's just an excuse. The truth is, I was weak and took the easy way out." "And Quinn? Was he manipulated too?" "At first. But then he enjoyed the deception. He became who he really was." Serena nodded, finally understanding that each person in this complex plot had made their own decisions. Helena out of remorse, Quinn out of greed, Vanessa out of fear, and she out of justice. "I can't offer you forgiveness, but I can offer you closure," Serena said. "What you did inadvertently helped uncover the truth about my father's death. That doesn't erase your betrayal, but it gives it purpose." When Vanessa left, Serena gazed out at the Boston skyline from her window. The veil that had once covered her life had completely ripped away, revealing a painful but liberating truth: that we are defined not by the betrayals we suffer, but by how we choose to respond to them. The Thomas Mitchell Foundation became a beacon of hope for victims of financial fraud. Her father's legacy, once stolen and distorted, now flourished in its purest form, and Serena, the jilted bride who had lost everything, found she had gained something more valuable: a life of purpose, built not on revenge but on restorative justice. As the sun set over the city, Serena closed the last folder of the day. On her desk, next to her father's photograph, she had placed a small fragment of fabric, a piece of the wedding veil that had once symbolized her shattered dreams. Now it was a reminder that sometimes The veil needs to be torn away so we can clearly see what truly matters.